Howdy doody. Welcome to episode 144 of TDI. This is Dr. Rowe on the horn to start. I'm joined as always by the one and only Ricky Flicks. Ricky Flicks, I thought we had enough drama from all the football we watched during this spectacular week one. I got my Steelers jersey on. I think you're wearing a Steelers jersey shirt as well. I can confirm the YouTube, it can be confirmed now. So watching you, show our support for Mitch Trubisky and a amazing week one win that provided several heart attacks, I guess mini heart attacks. But we had the most drama from this show thus far. I can't wait to discuss it with you, Ricky Flicks. This was bananas to take in. I was falling asleep at the beginning of the episode. It's been a long weekend, but now I couldn't be more awake. How are you, dude? How was your week one? And how was your experience watching House of the Dragon episode 4?
This episode dropping on the day of week one in the NFL is a huge disservice to Twitter and to this society. This episode was the wildest, the craziest episode yet, and nobody's talking about it. I can't wait to see the numbers of how many people watched it on Sunday night. We saw episodes 1 and 2 and so on get 10 million views per every Sunday night the past few weeks. This one with Tom Brady and the Cowboys playing Sunday Night Football, I'm interested to see how much those numbers drop, as this episode was off the walls. Off the walls. Insanity. This was my favorite episode so far. I don't know if I'll call it the best. It was my favorite. But again, just off the walls drama. I loved it.
I couldn't agree more. Like, the viewership of this is going to be interesting just based on the fact that you're right. Sunday Night Football, Cowboys, Tom Brady, week one. And then you have basically a whole episode of Game of Thrones, right? It takes the guiltiest pleasure that people have watching the show, and they made it last for an entire episode. And it looks like it's going to be a key plot line for the rest of this season. So let's just bring us up to speed. What happened at the end of last episode leading into this one. So we have Daemon at the end of last episode. They're struggling, him and the Valerians at the Stepstones, the crab feeder, right? Daemon doesn't like the idea of Viserys sending aid to help win this battle. Daemon takes it upon himself, right? He takes it personally, Michael Jordan meme, and then he goes, takes down the crab feeder, okay? Valerian's on Dragonback helping him out, and then, right, and ends up killing the crab feeder, ripping off his torso, ripping him in half, I should say. And then you have the king mending his relationship a little bit with Rhaenyra, declaring that she will be the successor to him once he perishes. So going into this episode, we have a couple different dynamics. We have Daemon returning with a crown in front of the king, back at King's Landing, right, in Westeros. You have them mending their relationship, Viserys and Daemon, after 3 years of distancing themselves from one another. And then you have, obviously, Rhaenyra ending it in a very positive manner with her father. But in this episode, it seems like, well, we're back to finding suitors, right? Creating her own path, but at the same time, she's ciphering through who's going to be her husband, right, for the future. So leading into this, Ricky Flex, what do you think of the idea of Daemon coming back, mending a relationship at the beginning of this episode, and where it turns out in the end?
This man is a trickster. He always has something up his sleeve. And yes, he's wearing a crown, but that's not the crown he wants. And he's just playing a game, doing what he thinks the king would want, so then he could be deceitful, his trickster self, and make his own claim, his own ambitions towards the throne. This is exactly what Game of Thrones is. It's a game. He's literally playing a game, and I love it. This is why we watch the show. This guy is just exactly what Game of Thrones is, and I love it. Like, this is why everyone loves Game of Thrones. He He has a touch. He's violent. He has the cockiness. He has the strut, the personality. He he's a trickster. He's very involved in the politics, backstabbing, just like Game of Thrones is. He's a mix of everything we love about Game of Thrones. That's why he's my favorite character by far in this show, House of the Dragon. And this episode just confirmed it.
He's also not a character that hides his feelings in any way. And that is when he's talking to Rhaenyra, saying like, hey, just because like you're marrying this one person doesn't mean that you can't like basically have sex with whoever you want, right? It seems like he is like corrupting her a little bit. But the moment that I'm kind of referring to when I say he's not afraid to hide what he's thinking is when he finally has that one-on-one with Viserys towards the end of the episode, where he says, he just confronts the situation like, you had sex with my daughter, she is your niece. And then he goes, well, we could just get married. We can get married. We're going to break all the rules. We're going to have a long-standing legacy, right? Once you're gone, Daemon will rule alongside Rhaenyra, which it kind of confirms a potential theory that we had on this podcast. And I feel a little bit vindicated, not going to lie, that we're not going to see them duke it out as much with Rhaenyra and Daemon, but potentially, right, a union of sorts where they're going to be on the same side, and it's going to be outside forces that are going to be troubling, right, what Viserys has established and the Targaryens themselves. So what do you think of that one-on-one between Viserys and Daemon? Because there's so many parts of this last 30 minutes of the episode where it was just so awkward, but I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It was so juicy. It felt like, right, I'm looking at like, it's like reading. It's like when you go to a grocery store and you see like those gossip magazines and you just like, oh, I don't really care about this. And you start hearing more about it. I just want to like watch some battles. I just want to see some dragons. But I'm like, I kind of just want to hear more and more of how bad the situation is going to get with this incest that now is taking a major plot line in the show.
It's not to bring up Queen Elizabeth's deaths.
Oh man.
But it reminds me of like Prince Harry and Kate Middleton, like they leave like the Brown, like who cares? But then you hear more and more. It's like, oh, what happened there? Oh, wait, like the Queen might be racist. Like, wait, what's going on here? But rest in peace to the Queen. But that's kind of what it's like. And I think Game of Thrones established that incest is a thing. So then with this show, when it has been teasing it, it's like, okay, that's normal. But it's not. And this showdown clearly shows why it's not normal still. And they did such a great job here. And like, again, like, I'm not saying I want to see incest, but the kind of, like you said, I feel vindicated because we've been saying on these recap pods, I'm not saying I want to see incest, but I wanted this to happen. And Daemon has some heart still in him, or has some integrity still in him, to pull back the reins and try to get the marriage, just make his claim rather than just go for it all without getting explicit here on the Drive-In podcast. And I was shocked. I'm not, I guess I am surprised, but for it to happen, this is like the middle of the season. It happened kind of earlier than I would have expected. Like the teasing to actually come into fruition. And now I'm like, all right, maybe it's not going to happen like at all. Now I'm like not feeling as confident as before. I'm still on that side where if I had to pick a path, I still am on that side. But again, just because the nature of it and how early it's come, it's now I'm having hesitancies here.
So I think at the timing of it all, like Daemon is now just getting back in good graces with the king. And what's he do? Like he hooks up with his daughter, who happens to also be his niece. Like that's probably like the worst thing he could have done when he's just gotten back right out of the doghouse, right? Just like Cam Akers for the Rams. But I will say, like maybe he should have waited a little bit to make a move there. I also want to talk about Rhaenyra because she was so damn horny throughout this entire
So
episode.
horny.
And it starts before Damon. It starts with her in an intimate moment with Allison, and Allison like being really upset and saddened by this news. And like they have the one-on-one conversation afterwards. And I sense like a little bit of jealousy from Allison. And I think, I don't know if the writers have discussed this. I feel like I read something where there is supposed to be some intimacy between those two characters. I definitely felt that, right? And then we also got to talk about her, Rhaenyra, going from like that intimate moment at the beginning of the episode with Allison, then Damon walking through the brothel, right? Pretending, right? They're one of the common folk, going beyond, right? King's Landing. Let's see what's going on at the taverns, get into some trouble.
Red Keep.
And then we go to Kristen Cole, who basically is taking the sloppy seconds of Daemon Targaryen, and he hooks up with her. So like, there's so many moments where Rhaenyra just seems like they're siphoning through all these potential kings, right? Who's going to be her husband, things of that nature. And she's just like, I just want to do what I want. And that's why with that important moment where you had the ASMR style where you have Damon, like where they're walking through the brothel, he's like whispering sweet nothings in her ear, saying it doesn't matter who you're married to, what everyone expects out of you.
Corrupting
you have to do
her.
what you want. He absolutely corrupted her, bro. Like pretty predatory. He was kind of predatory, man. But what do you think about Rhaenyra? Because she wasn't a sexual character really prior to this episode. She was more obsessed with taking the crown. But now, do you think like this episode, like diving into her sexuality, is now gonna like make her like more powerful of a character? She stood up to Viserys at the end of this episode. Do you think it's lending to something bigger here? Like she's gonna do what she wants?
Again, an episode like she's been horny. Like it's not like this has just been like
Sorta.
all right, peak horniness. Yo, episode 1. From the start, they introduced us to Allison. We said on this podcast there was some flirtation there between the two of them. Damon and
let's
her.
Be honest. Let's be honest.
There was between Damon and her,
be honest.
for sure. And then Sir Kristen Cole at the tournament. All three of them in episode 1. They teased it to us for a reason. And now we get to this episode. She's just so goddamn horny. And she gets corrupted, but doesn't get the home run. Gets back. And the director said this as well in the post recap or the post comments after the episode. If you stayed and watched the last like 5 minutes after the credits, where she's like, you're right, sloppy seconds. Kristen Cole was the sloppy seconds. She could have had that anytime, anywhere, but she was just so goddamn horny from Damon that, you know what? He was literally, her words, he was right there. Like he was right there. Mm-hmm. So for people saying now, because again, like this also, I'm having hesitancies here with Sir Kristen Cole, because we've said it here as well. He kind of has the Jon Snow feel to him. For me, I take that back after this episode. This is his peak. This might be his peak. Like I
don't know how he like becomes. He's not gonna like have a relationship with Rhaenyra after this. Yeah, you know,
sloppy seconds.
Yeah, and then he gives that look to Rhaenyra. He lets Rhaenyra in to go see Viserys, right, to discuss this very problematic situation.
And he's at the core of it.
There is him like looking back at her saying, like, I can't believe you did that. You literally hooked up with your uncle and then seduced me away from my watch, away from doing my jobs as a loyal, commander of the King's Guard, right? And then this happens. It's really something else. And I feel bad for my boy Kristen. He had no idea.
This is going to be just like a thing throughout the until Kristen Cole dies.
He's got the rivalry with Damon, though, too. It just makes it that much juicier. You know what I'm talking about? This is like the magazine. It's like at the grocery store. You're going to keep reading. Look at these storylines. Everything's connected. Like it's like Don't Worry, Darling-esque.
If Damon actually does marry Rhaenyra, there's going to be a scene where Kristen Cole is like, I had her first or something like that. Like there will be a scene, and then like a monsoon is going to happen of force from Damon. It will be insane. So that when that day comes, whether it's this season or the next or whatever, that would be wild.
It's only going to make this show juicier from here on out, in that dynamic, that relationship, that rivalry between Kristen Cole and Daemon Targaryen. But moving on from those characters, I want to go to actually one that isn't sexual at all, one that is very calculated character, and we're talking about the Hand, right? Rhys Ifans' character, Otto Hightower. He has a very interesting episode here, in my opinion. Someone that, as I said previously, very calculated, plays chess when everyone's playing checkers. He wants to maintain power. He's came from pretty much nothing, as Viserys confirms at the end of this episode. He helps put Alicent in a position to be the king's next wife, right? He's trying to figure out what's the best move for the succession, and like not only what's best for the realm, but also what's best for his own interests. And then we have him sending out a spy coming to him, sending out the spy on Rhaenyra, following her and Daemon's whereabouts. And then he has that decision to make. Do I tell the king? Do I not tell the king? And what I think was actually in best interest, right? He actually goes and tells Viserys that there's rumblings and there's witnesses now of Daemon getting down with Rhaenyra. So do you think there was any self-interest for Rhys Ifans' character here, Otto Hightower, or do you think, right, it was just doing the duty of a friend? What do you think?
He is doing the duty of the Hand. Okay, before I say anything, he is doing the duty of the Hand, a good hand. And he's, as shown in this episode, through two kings prior to Viserys, or Viserys and the prior king, Jaeger. Like, he's a great hand. Smart. He's not just calculated for self-interest, but also for the throne. Like, there's a reason why there's been so long, 60 years of peace. You know, there's been order in the council, and he's at the forefront of that for decades. So he's a great hand. But god dang, he is he wouldn't be self-interested and calculated towards his self-interest. Like they say in Game of Thrones, everybody wants the throne. He doesn't want the throne in particular. He wants his grandson, Aegon, to be at the throne. And who stands in the way? Rhaenyra. So yes, he did the job of the Hand by telling the king this, as he should. But no doubt, he didn't have a single doubt in his mind. He for sure lied when he said, I thought about it. No. He was going to tell him no matter what. So don't get that twisted. To tell him no matter what, because at the end of the day, self-interest, as in his personal, like if him, Rhys Ifans, yeah, he lost in this. He lost personally. He's no longer the Hand, right? But long term, this supremely helps Aegon, his grandson, become the next heir, because no matter what, this will be hanging over Rhaenyra for the rest of her life. And this just report, even though it could be false, which we know it's not, but it could be false, it's still looming, and people will believe it. And especially because she's a woman as well, and she's admitted to being outside the Red Keep, and outside of the walls in the brothel.
Daemon. She said with Daemon.
Yeah, with Daemon, and also in the brothel. She confirmed she was in the brothel. It will be looming over her for the rest of House of the Dragon, and particularly with the king deciding, okay, that's just another thing of ammunition to take away the heir naming from her. So it's just another thing, another ammunition to add to it. Yes, Rhys Ifans loses to be the Hand, no longer is the Hand, but long term, his main goal, which is the throne for his grandson, is stronger after this episode.
So I think this wasn't as evil as it usually is for Otto Hightower. For me, I think Rhys Ifans was amazing in this episode too. The pain, I think it really was to reveal that Daemon and Rhaenyra got it on in a brothel, right? That's hard to tell the man, right? The daughter, like the father of the daughter there, right? It's hard to say that your daughter's getting down with your uncle at a sex house. Like, that is so challenging. And the question begs, why did he send out the spy in the first place? There's distrust between Otto and Rhaenyra. He wants to make sure he's doing what's best for the realm. And then the fact that he's being questioned, right? He's only in it for himself. I just think it's interesting that he is taken down for this. Like, he is removed from this position, but this is probably like the most responsible thing he's done, where I don't believe like he was in it for himself. Like, he was doing it because you got to know Damon is a threat to the realm, right? You're just made up with him. You patch things up. He looks like a hero right now, right? And what's the first thing he does? He's getting it on with Rhaenyra, okay? And this guy, right? The question of succession, Rhaenyra and Damon, right? They come together, and obviously Aegon, right? The baby right now is not fit to rule. So we have a situation where there might be some like you have basically a potential for those two to steal the throne, right, with an unhealthy Viserys. So the Hand, I think, is actually doing the right thing here. And I don't think it's self-interest, but this is what takes him down when he's actually acting a bit unselfishly. I just found it was kind of, I was feeling that. Maybe we're a little off base from one another.
No, like, you're right, but no doubt did he think about how this would help him. And without a doubt, again, how has he gotten to where he is today? It's because of also self-interest, not and very calculated towards that. This is also a part of that. No doubt. It's without a doubt. So yes, he's also doing because he's a good hand. He's proven that. And
doing what's best for the realm.
Right. It just so happens to also be in his self-interest. So when he says, I thought about not telling you, he's lying. There's no doubt about that. Similar to how he's lying to the king when he says that he didn't calculate Alicent helping him through his grief. Because we know that's fake too, or a lie too, because he clearly calculated that as well. So again, he is acting as a good hand, but without a doubt, does also say it benefits him as well and his goals, which is Aegon as the next heir and not Rhaenyra.
And then you have the one-on-one with Viserys and Rhaenyra, one that was a juicy conversation because the king basically said, like, you have Rhaenyra say, like, we have the king's stressed out about everything right now. We're stressed out about succession, basically all the headaches that Rhaenyra is talking about. And then he goes to Rhaenyra, you are my headache. You are the reason that I'm stressed out and struggling, right? As in my final years as king. And I think that really hit with Rhaenyra because she always thought it was everything around her, but now she is the source of trouble after being like looked at as the best possible solution in her eyes to be, right, the successor or the next queen of Westeros. You have the moment too where Viserys commands Rhaenyra to marry the sea snake's son, right, who we met at the end of episode 3 with the battle on the Stepstones alongside Daemon. He was on Dragonback, okay, young stud. Will that happen? I think it has to. I think this is the example that Daemon was talking about earlier, where yes, you might have to marry somebody, but you can have sex with whoever you want. You can start relationships with whoever you want. So do you think this arranged marriage will actually go through? Do you agree with me, or can you imagine something different happening?
I think it does. And I think that will be the last time we see a young, like this actress playing Rhaenyra and the actress playing Lord Alicent, and then we'll get the older versions of them, the older actors that are going to play them later on in this season, and then Viserys will die, and then a whole new era, the true era of House of the Dragon will begin. This show is literally conquering the hype that is coming around it with the political instability surrounding it. And Viserys, Paddy Constantine, I don't know how to pronounce
Paddy
Considine. He is a great actor.
Yeah.
Because he literally is showing the political headache and how much he hates politics. But he's also doing a great job, like being adamant, being a true king when he has to be. But Daemon's right. He is not a good ruler. He isn't at all. It takes him years to realize Rhys Ifans, the Hand, he can't trust him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
right? It takes him years. He should have seen that day one, like Damon did, like Lord Corliss did, like all these other people did. It took him years.
Right.
And then these political headaches, he doesn't like politics. That's the throne, bud. That is the throne. And he's not good at handling it. And this era will come to an end, right? And then after that is where the true Game of Thrones, where a king or a queen will take it, king, will take the throne and truly endure the Game of Thrones. And that is when this show will be off the walls in actual action, not just like incest and behind the scenes self-interest. Like this will be truly Game of Thrones-esque once Paddy Considine's character Viserys is off the throne and is dead.
Yeah, I think he's amazing. I really do. I think it's Rhys Ifans, I think, steals the show every time he's on screen. I'm becoming attached with Rhaenyra now. Just that sounds
Great
bad.
episode for her. For the
yeah,
fans.
a lot of shine for her, right? She gets to open up with this character a little bit, show a different side to this character, just let it rip. And she truly does an incredible job. And I'm a little sad that we might be saying goodbye to her real soon.
I was thinking the same thing. Like this episode, I think clearly she's a very talented and very good actress. This I think it's Maddie Alcock or
Millie Alcock.
Millie Alcock. She's clearly she's gonna be a star. I think she's amazing.
Oh yeah.
But as a character, I didn't particularly fall in love with Rhaenyra until this episode. I think she's amazing, like the character, not just the actress, but the character. Now I'm like, damn, Rhaenyra, respect. Like, go get what you want. You're showing the king who's boss as well, standing up for yourself. And just overall, this character is really finding herself. And I'm starting to find myself like her now. Not to the same extent as Damon, or Rhys Ifans, the Hand, but I like her just as much, just below Damon, I would say. A lot of respect I got towards her this episode.
I think that this is what her actions this episode actually prove that she will one day be a ruler based on the fact she's able to stoop to lows that you need to, right, in order to maintain a high status or to potentially steal power. Like she's able to lie, right, to Alicent. She says, I swear on my dead mother's life.
The true Game of Thrones.
That I did not hook up. That I did not hook up with my uncle. That's what she says. Literally on my mother's life. Alicent buys it too. She's willing to do whatever it takes to save face. Right. And that's not the character I think we became familiar with the first couple episodes. But here, I think Damon is corrupting her and he's unlocked something within her. So that's why I think we might have a situation where Damon will continue to see Rhaenyra potentially. And then because he does back away, Damon does walk away from it, right? After he kind of reflects for a moment before they go too far, right? In the brothel. I just think there's a situation where she's going to be married to the sea snake's son, but still plotting with Damon to basically take the throne eventually once Viserys is gone.
And clearly, the sea snake's son and Damon have a good relationship after defeating the Crab Feeders together.
So another interesting dynamic,
Right. And I think once Viserys dies, which was teased at the teaser for the next episode at the end of this episode, but didn't get brought up with the cuts on the Iron Throne this episode at all, or his health was not brought up. But he will die at some point. So when that death happens, Rhaenyra and Damon are going to run free. They're going to run free and do what they want, just like Damon was corrupting Rhaenyra this episode and telling her we could do what we want. So that's when, okay, Rhaenyra doesn't need permission from her father to leave the sea snake stun for Damon or whatnot. So that's what I'm interested in. But I also just want to say this, kind of every episode of this series, I have this same thought going during the episode. And this is why I don't like prequels as much as just a regular show or the core content piece, like the Game of Thrones series. It's just a prequel.
The original
is, that Cersei's the first queen ever to go on the Iron Throne. So Rhaenyra will not be queen.
It's naturally a problem with all prequels.
So that is what is killing me in this show. It's really killing me because every episode, again, I just stated how much I'm liking Rhaenyra now. Like I've always liked her, but now I really like her as a character. She's awesome, but I know she's never gonna get on the Iron Throne. But if I didn't know that, if I didn't know that she'll never get there, then I would probably be rooting for her so hard. But I don't want to be just heartbroken by giving myself hope for rooting for her when I know the outcome isn't going to be that. Do you not feel that way?
Yeah, it's like for me, well, it limits possibilities for the audience. It like limits their thinking, which is like the flaw of it all.
Hurts creativity.
Yeah, but especially, but it opens up an opportunity for like to be a little creative, like these writers. Like how, even though it is inevitable that she will not be on the throne, how does she play and who is next going to be on the throne? Is she pulling strings behind the scenes? Right. I haven't read the books. You haven't read the books or anything like that. But
no,
I just want to see what, even if it is inevitable, this is like the sign of a good writer. Can you still flip the audience on their head? Can you still have us saying afterwards, wow, I did not see that coming, even with the prequel series where we know, as you said, Cersei is the first queen. It has a natural comparison, prequel issues, but also like it'll still blow your mind knowing not knowing the end game of a movie. It's Revenge of the Sith. Like knowing how Revenge of the Sith was going to end and had to end going before episode 4, like the hype for it was real, but still, like, and you had amazing action sequences, but the drama of it all is what made that movie, right? And those iconic moments between Anakin and Obi-Wan, Anakin and Padme, and Anakin and Darth Sidious, right? Those are the moments, even though you knew he was going to become Darth Vader, it had you on the edge of your seat at all points. You know, that's why I love that. It's my favorite prequel movie. But I know here a little different. This is only going to a certain point. This is not going up to Cersei, right? There's still years and years and decades of potential story here. And who knows? Maybe like the next actress is going to kill it too. We know she's not going to end up on the throne, but how does she play into the future of Westeros? That's all I'm really going through.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like we're getting so addicted to these characters and their form now, but we only have 1, 2, maybe 3 more episodes with Millie Alcock and Lady Allison, like actor. Like we're getting, like, we're forming our opinions and our familiarity with these actors playing these, but literally in like years down the road, when this is like season 4 of the show, we're gonna totally for Rhaenyra.
No,
Like this Millie Alcock character.
Wrong.
Yes, Damon.
Look at the history of Game of Thrones, bro.
Yeah, and I will tell you,
Ned Stark.
That's different. That's someone that died after a season. That's different. I'm talking about someone that's literally form is changed, like completely different.
What?
And
No one's gonna remember Millie Alcock in this role, like Matt Smith in this role.
Well, Matt Smith isn't changing. That
what do
Smith
you mean?
Is playing, like Matt Smith is playing Daemon throughout the entire series.
So they're
what
are they putting like are they putting effects on his face? Are they gonna like make just age in costume? Because what do you mean?
Yeah,
like,
so
but he has to age 20 years?
Yeah. What I'm saying is similar to Game of Thrones, right? It's what is your lasting impression of Daenerys Targaryen, right? You don't think of her in season 1 with her brother, like before.
Also Viserys.
Yeah, like before, like I don't know everything that happened before she gets a dragon.
Where she's not the dragon. Her brother, Viserys,
you don't
calls
remember
himself the dragon. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. Like I could remind you of it, and that's what we're gonna get with these actresses.
I don't know,
and
man.
I just don't think it's gonna have it has a great effect right now, and it's amazing. But I just feel like in several years down the line, it's a shame that we're not gonna we're gonna remember this, right? When we get reminded of it, how great this was, these actors, and these performances, but it's just not gonna stand the test of time as well as we would like to, because everything's gonna be great down the line with these new actresses, but I feel like they're gonna.
Is it? Like, I don't know. We haven't seen these actors.
But these actors won't get their due. That's what I'm saying.
I think they 100% will, because like this is like who knows what the future holds. I don't know how many seasons this is going to go. Maybe this might be if season 1 is remembered as the best season of House of the Dragon, for sure they're going to be remembered, bro.
Oh,
for sure.
I guess I'm thinking Game of Thrones.
People are talking about this episode. They're going to be talking about this episode. This Game of Thrones episode was just all about sex. Like sex was not like a side plot or a subplot of this episode. It was the episode, right? They're going to be talking about this episode for a long time, right? The juiciness and the drama of it all. And I don't think it matters. Like, if it's just people that are just going to remember the great performances. They will.
Yeah. Well, end of the day, this episode was awesome.
Right. And that's not the last thing we got to talk about, bro. We didn't even talk about the last scene where you have Viserys basically sending over Plan B to Rhaenyra to make sure that Daemon didn't put a baby in her.
Yeah, but
that's messed up. Imagine your dad sending you Plan B to make sure you don't have a baby.
But that's a trick. No.
What do you mean?
Because if she drinks it, she's guilty.
Yes. Oh, I got you. Yeah.
That I don't think it's actually like a tea. Like I don't think it is. I think
it's not a pill.
Well, I know. Okay, no, you know what I mean. I think it's not necessarily to make sure that she doesn't have a baby in her. It's more of, I want closure on this. Like Lord, the king he wants closure. Did you do it or did you not? And if she drinks it, she did it.
Okay.
Or she at least had sex. And that in that day and age, before marriage, that is terrible for a woman, especially for a new heir.
I got a prediction. This is what were you going to say something?
What, you got like Sir Criston Cole is going to be a father?
Yeah, no, it's his kid.
Yeah,
and
that's his legacy.
Everyone's going to think it's Daemon's kid based on rumors, but it's really Criston Cole's kid.
And then yeah, I can see that.
I literally think that, because I don't think she's going to drink it, right? So she can maintain her innocence, but she did have sex later that day, right? Later that night with Criston Cole, and it would be interesting. And that's a way to keep Criston Cole involved with this show. You know, it's it's his kid, and everyone thinks it's Daemon Targaryen's kid.
Another thing I was thinking of,
it's gonna come out of the womb with a beard, and everything's gonna be like, oh crap.
It's gonna have like just black hair, beard, short. Oh, yeah, it's definitely not.
It's like when you think Robert Baratheon, like Joffrey was Robert Baratheon's kid. Like, dude, let's look at Jaime Lannister and his sister. Like, that's an incest baby right there.
And for people not to say that, that actually would be a problem. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. If someone does say like that, like how like that's clearly not your kid in this show, but 60 years later when Joffrey's born, it's like you didn't say it back then until like Ned Stark said something. That actually, like, I don't know. I don't think you can do that, but whatever. We'll see when the time comes. But that's another thing I was gonna say is the sex scene is just like sex scenes are so odd in like shows and like whatever, who you're watching with or whatever, but like there's never like a clear pullout. So you think every time like, oh, like new kid probably, especially in a Game of Thrones. Like,
I can't believe you just said that on this podcast, bro. It's never a clean. Oh my god, I'm not saying it again. I'm like, for the sake of
whatever, just take it out.
Jesus Christ, we got to end the episode.
No, I mean, cut the episode, cut that part. But no, seriously,
we can't cut that part. No.
But like, come on, like it's every time there's a sex scene, it's like, oh, there's gonna be a kid.
Yeah, especially when it's happening in like middle age era or whenever this takes place, where it's like before, like probably way before like condoms had ever existed or any type of protection was being used. I can't believe you just said that. Jesus. All right. Any final comments? Any final comments before we wrap up this episode?
We're only at the halfway point. Like we're about to be at the halfway point. We have so many weeks left here.
Yeah. So what is it? 9 episodes? Or is it 10?
10.
All right. So yeah, so we got a halfway point next week. Let's see if we get a transition of actors. I did not watch Up Next on Game of Thrones at the end of this episode. Once the credits started rolling, and it's late right now. I know it's late right now. I had a long weekend, went on a wedding last night, hit the casino and everything. I'm basically running on fumes, so I'm sorry if my brain wasn't working properly during the beginning of this episode, but I'm still just
You got to go back
fine-tuning
and
myself.
watch it. You got to watch the teaser.
I will go watch it. Is there anything comments you want to make? It's okay if you spoil it for me. I'm about to watch it anyway.
Well, it's just it looks like there is a wedding. Like Rhaenyra's at like at least a huge like event because her and Viserys are at a banquet hall together at the head. So there's clearly a huge event happening, and Rhaenyra looks dressed up. So it looks like a wedding, and they hinted at Lord Corlys' son as well. So possibly wedding there.
Corlys Rhaenyra wedding? I mean, Sea Snake?
They bring back
daughter
health issue of the king. King's not looking well. This doesn't have to be next episode either. It could be episodes in the future.
He's just been dying since episode 1.
He looks worse in this teaser. And then also Rhys Ifans, he's like leaving King's Landing, but he's telling Alicent, Aegon has to be king or the heir, make it happen. He tells her that basically.
Otto, like he might be gone, but he's a plotter. He's a plotter.
But
he will not be gone for long, in my opinion.
The teaser literally shows him leaving, but like literally being adamant to Lord Alicent saying, you do all you can to make Aegon the next king. So still plotting even when he's not even there.
And now I'm thinking about it. I actually take it back. I think this is the end of the line for Rhys Ifans in the show, because if we're going to jump 20 years, how old is he going to be? 80? Like he already looks like he's like 65, 70. I don't know. I think we might have hit the end of the hand, just like he did this episode. All right. That's going to do it for episode 144 of the Driving Podcast. Make sure that if you're watching on YouTube, you like the video, you comment on the video if you want. All right. And then make sure you're subscribed to our page. Okay. You can check out our House of the Dragon reactions, the previous episodes. You can look at our She-Hulk reactions, our new one coming up this Thursday, little Daredevil action potentially. That's going to be a must listen for all of you and a must watch. Make sure you're also following us on all of our social media channels. A lot of news came out from D23 Expo this week. A lot of Star Wars stuff, Marvel, Pixar, right? Live action remakes, all in the mix. Check up later this week. Make sure you're following the feed, right? Social channels will give you the latest news for all things movies. And if you're on any listening platform, make sure you're following. Make sure you leave us a review, rate us 5 stars, and we'll share your review on the pod if you leave one. So for Ricky Flicks and Dr. O, that's going to do it for episode 144 of The Drive-In. Until next time, we will smell ya.